Here's a breakdown of our project. I will be doing an introduction. I will talk about the time period, key elements of our garden, and the framework for the analysts. For part 1 of this project, Jaden Sinclair and Jaden Powell will be sharing about the two historical Mughal tomb gardens. Sinclair will be talking about and analyzing the first historical garden that was chosen. Powell will be talking about and analyzing the second garden chosen. For part 2, Luke will be talking about and analyzing the contemporary garden. Lastly, I will be completing the conclusion for our project. The time period we will be completing our project over is the Islamic Mughal time period. This time period has influenced many things in Indian culture through art, architecture, language, and cuisine. This specific time period takes place during the Mughal Empire, which was a powerful Islamic dynasty that ruled from 1526 to 1857. The Mughal Empire was founded after Babur's victory in the Battle of Panipat. The empire had 6 emperors during its reign, known as the Great Mughals. The Mughal Empire was known for beautiful architecture. One well-known example is the Taj Mahal, which is shown here on the slide. The type of garden we are completing our project on is the Mughal tomb garden. Some key characteristics of this garden are the Chabag layout, which is a Mughal-style quadrilateral garden that is divided into 4 parts. Symmetry and geometry, which are fundamental and can hold symbolic meaning and purpose. Water features like fountains, canals, channels, and pools. Enclosed walls, which have religious symbolism and help to create a private sanctuary. Raised platforms, which were used to show representation, wealth, and status, or even to define a focal point, usually the tombs. Vegetation had specific placement and was used for the fragrance and aesthetic, but some of which also contained symbolic meaning. And lastly, architectural integration was also a key element in Mughal tomb gardens. For this project, we were asked to analyze a few different examples of Mughal tomb gardens. Some of the characteristics that are going to be analyzed are whether the garden is public or private, the functions of the garden, their scale, their relationship with its surroundings, the spiritual organization used in the gardens, the use of landscape elements like landforms, water, and vegetation, and the symbolism that each garden has. Using this framework, each of my group members will analyze and discuss their chosen gardens.
Khusro Bagh in Prayagraj is one of the most striking Mughal garden tombs complexes in India. Built in the early 17th century, it is a major example of how the Mughals blended architecture with landscape design to express power, memory, and artistry. Khusro Bagh was originally a semi-private royal space, as it was surrounded by high sandstone walls and had a grand entrance on its south face. In the Mughal area, only royalty and their inner circle had access, so the garden really marked a divide between elite and common spaces. Today, those same walls still set the garden apart, but over time it has become a public landscape used by local residents for walking, shade, and everyday recreation. But the spatial language still reflects privacy, status, and ceremony. Functionally, it does several things at once. Its main role is commemorative. The geometry of the garden frames the tombs and sets up formal views towards them. At the same time, the orchards of mango, guava, and orange trees add a productive layer, and the wide paths and lawns work as comfortable circulation and social spaces. So, it combines symbolic, aesthetic, and utilitarian roles all in one layout, and it, even in 1857, is served as a military base. While looking at scale, Khusro is grand, about 40 acres. Mughal designers wanted something that felt monumental, so the garden is much larger and more ambitious than other intimate Indian garden traditions. The size didn't just provide room for walking and planting, it was about projecting the dynasty's power and influence. Now for the spatial organization, the garden is laid out rectilinearly, with a grid of straight paths and cross axes. These axes direct movement right from the gates to the central tombs. The organization is very formal and orthogonal, with geometry used to guide visitors and refocus the attention towards the tombs. It's also a way for people to feel a human order imposed on nature, a key part of Mughal garden thinking. For its landform, it is subtle but important. Khusro Bagh sits on a flat plain, which makes the raised platforms of the key tombs stand out, drawing your eye up as you move through the site. Water was a big deal in Mughal landscape architecture, and Khusro Bagh once had channels and fountains especially near Nitar Begum's tomb. These features cooled the air, provided aesthetic pleasure, and enhanced the overall experience. Vegetation is one of its signatures. The orchards aren't just random, but they're organized in clear patterns and add both color and shade. The mix of the local and exotic species shows the attention paid by the Mughal gardeners, and geometric planting reflects the orderly feel of the site. When you look at Khusro Bog's relationship to its surroundings, it's clear that this place was meant to stand apart. Sited away from the riverfront in most urban areas, it nestles within its own pocket of greenery. The enclosing wall reinforces the garden's independent character, making it feel almost like a world unto itself. And then finally, the symbolism ties all of these aspects together. The Charbagh layout is the division into quadrants, and it's a reference to paradise, as is described in the Quran. The enclosed and orderly features speak to imperial control over both nature and legacy. Khusro Bagh isn't just a memorial, it's a space rich with spiritual and political meaning, reflected in every axis, water channel, entry.
Hello, my name is Jay, and today I'll also be presenting a historical garden, Safdar Jung's tomb garden located in New Delhi, India. So this garden was built from 1753 until 1754. It was also one of the last major garden tombs of Mughal Delhi. It is a final resting place of Safdar Jung, who at the time was a controversial figure, but his son wanted to honor him and build him a tomb garden. So this garden at the time of being built, it was a private garden. Mausoleum in the center was built for Safdar Jung. As you can see in the picture on the right, that's the mausoleum. And then after he had passed, it was owned and maintained by his family, and access was only restricted to the high level class and the elites by permission of his family. But of course, today the garden is open to the public, and many people and tourists go there. The function of this garden, it is religious and commemorative to Safdar Jung, of course. It is also utilitarian, so the water channels and vegetation, they create a microclimate for the garden. And then it is recreational, present day, for many people to go to. And then also there were pavilions that were built for Safdar Jung's family on the northern side of the garden that they would stay at. After that, the scale, like most other Mughal gardens, this was designed like a Charbagh garden. It was 78,400 square meters in size, and then the central mausoleum on top of the platform is around 90 feet. After that, we have the relationship with the surroundings. This tomb garden was built to be isolated from the rest of the city. It had high walls. People were not meant to just go in there whenever they wanted, like they are today. It was very exclusive and just did not really want to integrate with the rest of the city. And then in the image to the right, that is one of that is the pavilion that Safdar Jung's family would stay at. Spatial organization, we have our central mausoleum, which is like the key point in this garden. And then we have walled enclosures on all sides, and then also axial water channels and geometric walkways. Um, and then it is also subdivided into four squares that each hold vegetation in each of the subdivisions. Um, at the time of being built, the site was flattened, so the topography was altered, and the water channels intersect at each division of the garden into four parts. And then the water channels are utilitarian and they are an irrigation system. There's a lot of native vegetation that was incorporated in this garden, but also some exotic ones, such as the cypress tree, which I'll talk about more on the next slide, with symbolism. So, of course, the Charbagh Garden represents paradise in the Quran, and the four water channels represent the four rivers of paradise. And then the exotic tree, the cypress tree, it symbolizes life and death. And that is my presentation over Soft Junk's Tomb Garden. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Howdy, my name's Luke Walker, and then I'm going to be presenting about Aga Khan Garden in Alberta, Canada. This is our modern version of our Mughal tomb gardens. Let's start. So this garden was built in 2018. It's a public garden, and it's the most northern Islamic garden in the world. And it is a gift by Aga Khan. It's a meeting space. So Aga Khan wanted a meeting space and a learning environment that many could come and learn more about Islam in this area. So he built this space to be a very communal, open, large area to have things like the amphitheater and different pavilions to inspire people and spark their interests into Islam and learning about each other's faiths. So the actual area is 4.8 acres. Even though it is so vast, it's very humanistic in its designs. Nothing is scaled out of proportion. It doesn't have a central building like the ancient examples do, because it's a living memorial and it's not the tomb place of a individual. And they have life-size sculptures like frogs and different animals. And as you know, there isn't any human sculptures because they don't do depictions in their religion. They don't want any of their depictions of people around. And then in the sitting room environment, uh, there's a 4.7% Islamic population in Canada. So again, very small. So this is pretty new, and they want to inspire and spark more interest in Islamic religion. And all the stone here is quarried in the native or area in the near area, and modern historic methods were used to do that, as well as the construction, like different lattice work and calligraphy. The spatial organization of the spot, it has a very rigid, solid axis down the middle. As you can see, even on the other side of the lake, it's still connected on that solid axis. But there's also organic parts like the different back forest areas. There's a couple winding paths in the back through there. And then there's also some different water features in the front that are more organic and not as fixed as like the central plaza. And then throughout, you're going to be very connected with nature because in Islam, they want you to be connected with nature. You are one with nature. Uh, it's a very active landscape, though. It's a active environment around where they have almost over 25,000 different plants. And these are very native plants that are hardy because it's a harsh environment around. And there's over 12 water features and fountains around as well. Main reason for all those fountains is because it has a lot of symbolism in Islam. It's about purity, and that's why they have the four river design as well, where it's connecting the present life to the afterlife. And it's also because of the purity of the water as well. Uh, Also, I wanted to touch on the orchard. It invokes themes of renewal and stewardship. So they want to be able to uh, it's our responsibility as people in this world is to protect the gifts that we were given. So protecting and also keeping up with the orchard is part of that as theme as well. And that is everything I have.
Mughal tomb gardens are called paradise on earth, and many of their characteristics make it this way. There is so much that went into designing these beautiful gardens, and just as much that goes into maintaining them that has helped them earn and keep this name. We hope that our presentation has shown what we have learned about Mughal tomb gardens and that it has thoroughly explained what we have covered in this course. With that, we end our presentation. Thank you.